Okay, I wanted to talk a few things about a few things in general. I want to talk about like how the left have just gotten ridiculous. Obviously, the racism, the sexism, the homophobia, and all the extremes isms that they're using to cancel everybody, and to the point where they don't even believe in heredity. They don't believe in they don't believe in shared traditions. They don't believe in anything. They fundamentally think the United States is founded on racism and sexism and slavery and just the premise of the United States is evil, is what they're saying. And, like, I think the conservative ideas is just, which, okay, let's just face it, the left in general constantly wants to change things. The conservatives want to conserve what they have. The left has just gotten so maddening, um, and that's because they fundamentally think that the founding of America is illicit, and that's why they're having these statues that are being grown up. That's why you're seeing Black Lives Matter burn the country down. They don't care. There's not even any nuance of these things. Sure, black people in general are fundamentally doing worse than all other ethnicities. But can you really blame that on racism? They think that like everything is like, an explanation of everything is racism. What they don't point out is, they think that all this is caused by 400 years ago there was slavery. They don't point out that like the ancestors of slave owners are only less than 3% of America. Excuse me, 3% of white people. The overwhelming majority of whites in America are immigrants from Europe, obviously, but most of them came from 1909, early 1900s. That's when we had this huge immigration. Yes, there was some that was before that, the Mayflower, et cetera, et cetera. And that was a part of it, a part of it. But there's also been a lot of immigration um, after the Civil War, after abolition. So, like, the other thing that we don't talk about is that the fact that black immigrants do much better than native born blacks. And the fact that blacks who, for the most part, we'll just face it, they have been in the country just as long as white people, they only represent about 13% of the population. That's with immigration. 13% is not a very large percentage of immigration. Why is it? Obviously, that's because of abortion. The black population has been decimated by abortion. No one wants to talk about this. But a lot of this is culture. Going back to black poverty, we don't want to say this. Um, we don't want to say that black people commit more crimes. That's fundamentally true. The statistics are real. Black people commit more crimes. Now, you could argue why that is. Now, the left tries to argue that's because of poverty. Well, that's not true at all. During the Great Depression, the crime level did not go up. So there's other statistics everywhere that says that really poverty um, poverty is not a reason to steal. The reality is it's a lack of moral principles. People that are Christian, that believe in the higher power, do not steal. That's what we need to talk about. Why? The crazy thing is, the black community, for the most part, not all, like Jesse Lee Peterson says, for the most part, are very Christian. In fact, they love the soul music. They gospel. Oh my God, they're amazing singers. They have a lot of faith in Jesus. And it's enjoyable to see, but it seems like they don't, for the most part, they don't take the principles of the Bible to heart. They worship one side, but they don't implement it in their life. I don't understand it, really. I feel sorry for that. Yeah, and on top of that, we have a culture in the black community, and it's not just the black community, but we're just talking about black community because of the Black Lives Matter stuff. We have a culture of single motherhood in the black community. There's no interest in getting married at all. Again, it's JLP, not all. For the overwhelming majority, they don't. That's where they came with this term, baby mama, baby daddy. If someone gets married in the black community, it's odd. They think you're a weirdo. On top of that, we have a culture that worships and venerates thug life. In other words, drug dealers, gangsters, people that shoot cops, anything that's basically wicked. They don't flee from this. They're attracted to this. It's almost like a culture, an anti-culture. Whatever law and order says, whatever is respectable, they have it's almost like that is whiteness. Whatever is crime, whatever is illicit, whatever is it's hard, I'm lost for words, but you get the idea. The picture of whatever is immoral is black culture, and they worship and venerate this. We don't really see anything, and I find that it's interesting because I think it must be because black culture seems to be a matriarchal society, because we really don't see, in general, men are more individualistic. So in other words, men want to have their own families. The men want to protect and provide for their families. You don't see that. In the black culture, you see more women speak out. And honestly, it seems like when black men only get together with women that remind them of their mothers. They're rude, they're loud, whatever. You don't see women that are submissive in the black community. Or if they do, it's very, very rare. So we have this problem of black crime. We have this problem of single motherhood. We don't want to talk about it. We think it's some sort of systemic racism, and you can never say these problems out loud, because if you do, you're racist. These are huge problems. I don't know what's going to happen, but this is a real problem that we need to have. I really feel for the black community. I don't want this to continue to happen. But unless we talk about it and figure out what's happening. Unfortunately, it's going to keep on happening. I want, for the most part, black people to get married, to have a family, to stay together. That would uplift them and take them out of poverty. Everybody realizes this, but instead they want to blame every single problem on white people. How does that make sense? It's like it's a different world. It's just impossible to blame. I mean, it's, white people, certainly have their own problems, but they're certainly not the boogeyman that they want you to believe that they are. I'm sure this question will come up. Do I think that racism exists? To be quite frank, it's not an easy question to answer. It depends on how you define racism. Are people tribal in nature? Yes, absolutely. For whatever reason, people are tribal. In other words, they prefer people that look like them. People, that's why there's a little Chinatown. That's why there's a little Korea. That's why there's the black community. The people just live together, whatever. I find that in general, white people are just the opposite. They do everything they can to prove that they're not racist, because that's like the worst thing they can be called ever. Obviously, if you've traveled anywhere on non-European Western countries, you'll find out that people are pretty racist, and that's pretty normal. China, Japan, whatever. They don't like anybody else. So it's just the tribal nature of people. I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. To a degree, I have no problems with individualism. So in other words, if you choose if you choose to hang out with other people of your own race, that's fine. If you choose not to, that's fine too. People ultimately should have freedom of association. These things should not be dictated by the state. And that's the real problem. The state mandates certain things from, from people like first of all, I don't think the state can make people love each other. I think that's impossible. I think only Jesus can. The state, for the most part, is a force of violence. Since when did violence make people love each other? Now, that being said, I think that if you treat someone differently because of the race, that's not right. That I would say that's wrong. So, in general, I don't really believe in racism. I believe in right and wrong, good and evil. You should not treat someone differently because of their race. Now, that being said, it's different, certainly different when you're talking about a marriage partner. And there's obviously so many different factors involved with marriage. One of them that you should consider is, how are my children going to come out? If you're white and you want to have white children, there's nothing wrong with that. Or if you're black, you want to have black children, there's nothing wrong with that. Those are just factors you should think of. Now, there's no right answer as far as it goes. But do I think that America was founded around racism or whatever? Of course not. America was founded on individual liberty, founded on the idea of religious freedom. So, obviously, the left has just gotten completely mad and insane. So what's going to happen? I don't know. It's hard to say. But here's my thoughts. I think we'll see a rise of someone like Napoleon. I see this culture war, this civil war that we're kind of in. It's kind of the French Revolution. Off with their heads. They're looking for any reason to cancel you. Sure, it hasn't come to much violence. Certainly it has come to violence, especially that person that assassinated a Trump supporter. A Patriot prayer guy. Really? Patriot prayer? Out of those two words, which do you have a problem with? Praying to God or being a patriot? They're against both. So, but anyways, they're the guy, the Antifa person that had a big BLM tattoo on his neck. Obviously, they're in bed together, but certainly they. He thought that he was so irredeemable that he had to assassinate them. It's obviously come to violence. Will this continue? Yes, absolutely, 100%. So the question is, when will it stop? I think we'll see a rise of someone like a Napoleon, where, just kind of an alpha, a Julius Caesar, Augustus Caesar, an alpha male who just said, enough of this bullshit, we're not taking it anymore. Is Trump the Napoleon? In some ways he is, but in a lot of ways he's not. He talks a big game. He says he does not, he does not apologize for being politically correct, which is a great, it is a great quality that he has. But that being said, Trump does not, I don't understand it, to be quite frank. Trump doesn't, he'll tweet out like law and order, but he doesn't make any action. So how does that help us at all? How does that fix anything? If he gets a second term, possibly, but I'm not holding my breath because it seems like he seems to be directionally right. But I think two things that he's got problems with. One is he doesn't push far enough, and he seems to hire the wrong people all the time. And maybe that's just a product of how many people that are, quote unquote, are in the swamp, are establishment type who really don't believe in America. They're ultimately, they say that they're conservative, but what are they conserving? They don't really believe anything. So those are some random thoughts. Again, I don't know, but I do think that we'll see a rise of some sort of alpha male that no one was expecting. And Napoleon was a genius. Let's just face it. He kind of just rise out of nowhere from mediocrity, but he was just so talented. It was just hard not to notice. And then he just took charge. And that's what happens with alpha males. People that are alpha, there's no question. They just lead. And no one questions it. So yes, we will see the rise of something like that. But will it be in my lifetime? I'm not sure. Probably, but the left has just gotten too crazy. And I think most people realize that, but we'll find out. Okay, guys, have a great day. Leave a comment, subscribe if you're interested. All right, bye bye. Okay, I wanted to talk a few things about a few things in general. I want to talk about like how the left have just gone ridiculous. Obviously, the racism, the sexism, the homophobia, and all the extremes isms that they're using to cancel everybody. And to the point where, they don't even believe in heredity. They don't believe in, they don't believe in shared traditions. They don't believe in anything. They fundamentally think the United States is founded on racism and sexism and slavery and just the premise of the United States is evil, is what they're saying. And, like,